Hey guys, it's Maple here once again, and I wasn't going to let an entire melee buff and attack league go past without playing some Infernal Blow. It is one of the most satisfying skills out there in the game, I'd say, because it does have its own built-in explosions, pops, whatever you want to call them, bloofs, and in the past, we have made some attempts at Infernal Blow, and usually they are pretty satisfying clears, and then somewhat lackluster single targets. And this one's not really too much of an exception here, but the single target isn't actually too bad. It's just not mind blowing. You can get past with some good 17s, some good Guardians, some good enough Uber bosses, and I think there's some good avenues for Infernal Blow right now to be successful in many different ways. I chose the dex stacking route because it's pretty unpopular at the moment, so dex stacking gear is not very expensive compared to your much more conventional int and strength stacking at the moment. Those are just much more powerful in general, but dex stacking does still have its own niche, and yeah, we stack it for the purpose of having a weapon that does some cold damage per dexterity, and then also the grasping mail modifier for attack speed per dexterity, and Garakan's flight, which are boots that do life for dexterity. So the dexterity angle gives you cold damage, gives you attack speed, gives you life, and that's taking care of a lot of things. And of course, Infernal Blow starts out as fire, but it can be anything as long as you stack whatever the hell you want and then focus on that. The only issue is that, yeah, the fire explosion is scaled through fire, elemental damage, that sort of thing, and it's a bit nicer to scale it if you're scaling fire damage or strength stack. Either way, this works perfectly fine, and it did turn out to be a pretty damn good character. The biggest thing I was going to try and do is make it ranged. Hopefully you've noticed that by now, that we have a very long weapon range with our Infernal Blow, our strike skill, and the reason for that is the plus 2 meter range Runecraft on the sword. So that is a somewhat expensive one. It's only a couple power runes, but I think it was like 20, 30, 40, something like that, mountain runes. So it costs in the end something like 20 divines for this Runecraft, plus 2 meters to your weapon range. I then also got the Anoint, the new Anoint that does 40% further strike range, which I think is called Scion's Ambition, something like that. And then stacked a bit more weapon range, and the goal was to basically hit as far away as possible with our skill while being anywhere. And having a few extra strikes, so using Ancestral Call, and then gloves, got a mastery, got a bunch of extra strikes. It ends up being a clear speed monster. You can be pretty much anywhere and just hit everything on your screen and explode everything on the screen as well. And it does feel really good. With this extra range, you can do pretty much anything. I did try out Cyclone as well, and it covers maybe like half the screen. It's not exactly what old Legion Cyclone is, but it's pretty damn good. And it's actually even weird to see, just Cyclone killing things instantly, as opposed to like waiting for a shockwave or waiting for the bleed that I was doing, or cast on crit. So it can be a novelty to definitely make Cyclone builds happen too. But this one, Infernal Blow with Dex Stack, it is a Scion, and I went with tinctures for Warden and also Champion. I think it got a slight rework. The Champion one is actually pretty decent at this point. It gives you some aura effect, it gives you Fortify, Intimidate, and maybe a bit of reduced damage taken. I don't remember. And then the new Scion Warden is replacing Raider, of course, and it gives you an additional tincture, gives you some suppress, and also some Ellie Pen. So this is the first time I'm doing 2 tinctures as a non-Warden, I think it is, and it's actually not feeling too bad. If you build into your character being pretty strong without tinctures, then you can use tinctures in this manner as kind of a burst window button to press, because we definitely can't sustain them, and they're going to be up at best maybe half the time. So you just use them as kind of like a focus button. When you really need to do some good burst, you press your tinctures, and in my case, they double to triple my damage, so it is, very noticeable. And then they go down after just a couple of seconds, and or 5 seconds, something like that. And then you get to press them again in about another 5 seconds. So you do have to pick your moments for like attacking sometimes, but it's not a bad play style. You don't have to like constantly mash and just make sure they're up all the time. It's just kind of a burst window sort of thing. So it's a pretty good system, and Scion Warden is not a bad choice whatsoever. And of course, regular Warden, still pretty damn good. Can get 2 tinctures there that are pretty damn OP as well. The other thing I did was take the Elementalist Ascendancy from the Scion, and that gives us a bit of extra exposure damage, but also immune to Ele Reflect, and that means I can run a lot more maps, especially on tier 17 front. So the character did end up taking on a few tier 17s, took on, well, all the tier 17s I had, so I don't know, something like 8 of them. And don't think I came close to really bricking any of them. It just depends on some of the boss fights. The main sort of source of defense here is evasion, because we do stack dex, got over 2,000 of it. I end up getting 95% chance to evade with the Watcher's Eye as well, just to cap it out. So very low chance of actually getting hit. Got some block as well, just in case. I don't know, it's there mostly for free, so why not? And then we recover through some good life leech and a bit of instant life leech as well. And since we're dex stacking, it is a cold base build, so it does actually freeze enemies quite regularly and thoroughly. I did do one simulacrum, actually all the way through Deathless, I think it was, all 15 waves, so that was a pleasant little surprise. Let me think. I think no, that's something else. Yeah, no, Simulacrum was good all the way through, because we don't really get too cucked by any modifiers, but with cap suppressed, with 95 evade, you don't get hit too often. As you can see, I almost died, but yeah, it should be a reliable enough Simulacrum clearer with the extra strikes and the explosions. Took on Uber Eater of Worlds and Uber Searing Exarch. Those are the 2 that I had at the time. The DPS, nothing crazy, but it is reliable enough. And I was also using Behead for most of this character's playthrough, so my damage is a little bit better when we're sub 50 health on the enemy. And it's an okay Uber killer. It's, yeah, still a little bit melee, because you can't get too far away when you're using single target sort of stuff, and can't really face tank most things without, you know, more max res or recovery or some shit. So have to dodge a few things here or there. Like the Minotaur thing here can definitely face tank, but, you know, I still have to do the ball phase here, and sometimes I suck at it, and definitely take a big fat L, as you're about to see. So Searing Exarch's a bit of a graveyard zerg, you know, die to ball phase, come back in, kill him, etc., and it ends up working out. Overall, really pleased with the character, really pleased with Infernal Blow. I think there's lots of ways to do it, but I went dex stack, Scion, so let me go ahead and show you how I built this character. So here's the character at this point, level 95, melee by the way, Keclear. Dex is a little bit off, I guess, 2066 at the moment. Bunch of evasion, like I said, capped res, which is always good, capped spell suppress, and a little bit of block. So yeah, all that dexterity, as I said, basically comes from, or being useful, comes from the weapon. So it adds 2 to 4 cold damage with 10 dexterity. You can get a synthesized base that makes the rest of the craft way easier, but I chose not to do that because they're in more limited supply, and you know, didn't want to just fully cheese the system, but you absolutely should if you get the opportunity to. And the main thing is to use a sword, because we get +2 meters to weapon range. With that enchant, you can do a fuck ton of different things, but we chose to do Infernal Blow. To craft this thing, I basically just spammed a bunch of cold essences until I got the cold modifier. I think I ended up accidentally slamming like lightning onto it for big flat lightning. It's not important. It does obviously help a bit of damage, but we are focusing mostly on cold damage, so, you know, is what it is. Otherwise, just a multi-mod. But basically what you're doing is just spamming cold essences till you get the cold mod, and then finishing it off however you can. So that's what we got. The other thing that you can get is 1 attack speed per 25 dexterity. It's the first time I'm actually using this modifier. but it comes from grasping males, and then with the recombinators, you can basically move it to a cooler base, which is what we tried to do. So just grabbed a grasping male that had attack speed and I think maybe dexterity, maybe a life roll, and then combined it onto a syndicate garb that had suppress, dexterity, life, some stuff like that. Smashed together, lost the suppress, but still kept the dexterity, and overall it's a decent enough chest. All you're really trying to do is just get the attack speed per dex, either on a grasping male or put it on a whole new base with some recombinators. And then you can do whatever you want with the prefixes. I just got these and kept them, but with Eldritch stuff, obviously you can reroll prefixes to do whatever you want. Aside from that, we have a bit of extra life from Garricans as well, so quite a lot of our life comes from that, and then that means that you don't really need as much life from the rest of your gear, but doesn't hurt to get more. So the rest of the gear is a Fractal Thoughts, pretty common thing, but you can get, I think this is from Ultimatum sort of situation, minimum charges, and this one was 1 divine, but just takes care of a few extra little charges here or there, so that's kind of cute. And then dex stack, even 2 implicit things aren't very expensive right now because no one's really doing dex stacks, so yeah, grab that, use some essences. What did I do here? Recombinated to just get a temple mod, a little bit of suppress, some dex, and then use some essences on that. It's really nothing special, but fills out some kind of niche and starts out as a dex implicit base. And then grabbed a mirrored ring that has some dex and some res and stuff, and then grabbed some kind of ring that fills out a bit of dexterity and some resistances that I otherwise needed. The passive tree is going to be a little bit weird, but nothing too crazy. We've got 2 attributes, Light of Meaning, that gets a whole bunch of extra attributes, and then a Unnatural Instinct that steals a few things, you know, and then helps out with the Light of Meaning. We then have stealing the Elementalist from Scion, because as I mentioned, we do have Champion, we have Warden, and then stealing Elementalist. But yeah, the tree is a little bit weird. I didn't really figure out a better way to traverse this thing, but this is what I've come up with, and we are wanting to get the melee strike skills deal splash because it feels pretty damn good for Infernal Blow. It's not mandatory, but it does feel really good. You then get the additional target. We maintain rage pretty well through this thing. This is the Anoint. So if you don't want this Anoint, then you don't really have to go this far into the tree because you could probably just Anoint Trouble Fury. But for that 40% further away, it does feel pretty good. We then got a few nodes there. We have 1 cluster that does Cold to the Core mainly and Sadist. I then rolled Dex and Chaos Res through like Alt Regal Exalting a lot to get a little bit of Chaos Res into our build. So it does that. Grabbed a Watcher's Eye that basically just gives me Evade with Grace. So just tops out my evasion. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't do anything, just very sort of cheap Watcher's Eye situation. Got a few tincture nodes, got a few other tincture nodes. You can get a lot of different dex stacking brutal restraints over here. So this one just does some flat dex and then a few percents. And there's a lot out there that are going to do things that good. So 2 or 3 dex nodes and whatever else. And that's basically the trick, I think. Yeah. I wasn't super happy with it, but this is what I came up with, and it did work out in the end. I just feel like there's a more optimal way to do it. I don't know. So the links here are Infernal Blow into a Woke Ancestral Core. With quality, you get even further away targets, so it's pretty cool. Early damage with attacks, Inspiration, Behead is what I was using for most of the time, a little bit more range, steals some shit sometimes, and then 50% more against low life, and then also Hypothermia. Aside from that, Haste, Blood Rage, Grace, using Vile Double Strike for a bit of extra single target sometimes, so that's attached to crit damage, early damage, and Ruthless. Haven't filled anything out here. I was going to do Golems because I'm Elementalist, but they just die. They're pretty fucking useless these days, unless you actually like spec into them and stuff. Then we have Assassin Mark, Frostblink Mark on hit, Life Tap, and down here Shield Charge with Life Tap, Rage, and faster attacks. My Tinctures, huge extra benefits. This is without the increased effect even. Crit, lots of early pen as well, and then lots of early damage, and then attack speed. So pressing those, pretty damn powerful. Overall, great character to like just farm maps with, farm gold with. Not too bad for tier 17s, not too bad for Ubers, but mostly just a nice gold farming character. And, you know, it's one of them win more type of characters where the more mobs there are, the more packs there are, the better it's going to feel. So you'll explode even bigger and better and just feel pretty damn good about it. Infernal Blow, definitely something to look at. I think it should be a pretty good face breaker build. That was the initial angle I wanted to take this down, but ended up going towards deck stack because I was a bit influenced by some people, I think. But yeah, should be a pretty good skill and a lot of fun. With that, I should also mention a lot of people ask about MTX. It's from a previous supporter pack, Aesir. I don't think you can get it anymore. So that's that. Yeah, with that, thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.